Hi everyone, welcome back to The Shelves Have Eyes. I'm Fantom, and today we'll be doing an unboxing of Transformers 40th Anniversary Comic Edition Decepticons Straxus. As you can see, this box is modeled after the cover to issue 15, I believe, of the Marvel Comics original G1 Marvel Comics run US. It's a follow-up to the Smelting Pool issue. For the US comic run, Straxus only appears in these two issues, where he is just depicted as a Decepticon despot that is in charge of the smelting pools of Polyhex and comes to blows with Blaster after he kills Blaster's partner Scrunge. Not necessarily a very well fleshed out villain, not compared to the rest of the Decepticon leaders that we see in the Marvel Comics run, or the UK run, for that matter. He is a brutalist, doesn't really rely on tactics, and he has an extremely interesting design, both in robot mode and alt mode. As we look on the other side of this, on the top of the box, we can see that we have an image of Straxus appearing to Shockwave and the rest of the Terran Decepticons, when he makes contact via the space bridge. So on the side, we have him ordering his troops, him kicking one of his troops, his alt mode, and him fighting Blaster. Furthermore, on the back now, we have a nice depiction of him in his robot mode and this new alternate mode, which is heavily based off of this particular single panel from the comic. Just some splash pages. Here is an absolutely ridiculously poorly drawn image of him falling, and then him getting bonked through the space bridge where he theoretically gets killed. On this page, we have the next part of the mural by Marcelo Matari. Over here would be Grimlock, and over here is Flame and Emret Zarin. As we open up the box, unlike other Legacy packaging, we actually have a very nice little overview of who this is, a little bio. Once again, a very poorly drawn depiction of his alt mode, which is kind of a flying cannon shooting at Blaster on the space bridge. And here we have the Despot of Polyhex himself. Coloration-wise, very nice. He has the same comic shadowing and comic dot detailing that Comic Edition Shockwave had. As we can see very clearly here, he is an extensive retool of the Kingdom/Legacy Galvatron figure. In terms of gross retooling, it's really not that much. The biggest retooling is simply on his chest plate, his lack of 4-pack abs that Galvatron had. He does not have Galvatron's arm-mounted positron cannon, because he never had that in the comics. He uses this battle axe here, which also, in terms of depiction, varies wildly from issue to issue and sometimes from panel to panel. Here we can see Straxus's face. It's a very interesting design. He's kind of a fan favorite, along with Emret Zarin and Flame. Straxus, Emret Zarin, and Flame were much more heavily featured in the Marvel UK run of Transformers comics, where Emret Zarin essentially ran the wreckers. And Straxus, following his quote-unquote death, being struck through the unfocused space bridge by Blaster, he survives as only his head, and then proceeds to continue commanding his Decepticons that way. And then later on, much later on, Simon Furman, in his attempt to marry the storylines of Marvel UK and Marvel US towards the end of the overall Marvel Comics run, Simon Furman decided that Straxus's head in the Marvel UK run was going to have constructed an alternate body that looked exactly like Megatron. And the Megatron that was operating on Cybertron during the Marvel UK run, that has delusions of grandeur and screams and runs around, etc., was actually just Straxus in Megatron's body. Therefore, theoretically solving the out-of-characterness of Galvatron, of Megatron's personality in his standalone Marvel UK appearances before he makes his reappearance in the Marvel US comics. So take from that what you will. Straxus has a very complicated history in the comic, which, let's just be honest, half of it is a retcon. This is only the second toy of Straxus that was ever made officially by Takara Tomy or Hasbro. He first appeared in the Transformers Generations. I think it was a Reveal the Shield toy, because I think it came out around the same time as Wheeljack and Jazz in the Reveal the Shield Generations imprint. Unfortunately, they didn't want to deal with the copyright issues relating to his name, Straxus, so he was retitled Darkmount. He was a semi-autonomous artillery vehicle based heavily off of, I believe, a South African heavy ordnance vehicle. He had his huge axe. His face was a little retooled, more in line with his appearance at that time in IDW as one of the original crew of the first arc under Nova Prime that went into the Benzuli expanse and got infected with the dead universe cancer. And then he and a character named Grindcore, who was, I believe, wholly original to the IDW story, was part of Nova Prime's expansion. I believe he and Grindcore were both destroyed or succumbed to the decay of the dead universe, and he was never heard from again. I believe he appeared in one flashback drawn by Guido Guidi. I believe it was an annual that redrew the original crew of the Arc 1 before they turned into their dead universe counterparts. So you had Cyclonus and Galvatron and Nova Prime and Jaxus and Straxus and Grindcore. So that's really his only toy appearance before this. And you really couldn't ask for a better looking figure than this. This is an excellent reuse of the Galvatron mold because, as you can see, it almost looks exactly like his alternate mode from the comics. So let's take a gander and see how extensive the retooling is. So you get the instruction booklet, fairly standard, page of warnings and copyright information. That's fine. Let's take a look at, oh, okay, well, that wasn't very well packed. So you get the Straxus figure itself, his axe, and a little cannon piece. The cannon piece can attach to the back of his backpack so that it's safely tucked away, or he can hold it in his hand, which is just kind of ridiculous. And John Axe is very nice. Interesting. All right, so here we have obvious artifacts of Galvatron's transformation. You can put them down if you like to make it slightly more comic accurate. Likeness of Straxus is very nice. It looks exactly like it did in the comic. It's kind of on a weird... It's got a very odd hinge. Maybe it just needs to be loosened up a bit. But it doesn't seem to want to sit straight. But that's fine. Looking at the figure, you can immediately tell that this is the Galvatron mold. Despite all of the changes to it, the feet are exactly the same. The arms are essentially exactly the same. This piece is slightly different. And also, in Galvatron, his treads would plug into this hole in the back of his shoulder. And these don't revolve around to clip in. So you're just kind of left with these weird little bits of kibble here that apparently do not go with the rest of, do not bend with the rest of his arm. So he is going to have these weird kibble pieces. The waist pieces appear to be exactly the same as Galvatron. Looking at the back, there is some slight retooling to the top here. I just broke it. No, I didn't. It's not a double fold. That's kind of odd, but that's fine. So his shoulders, pauldrons there, are exactly like Galvatron. You can put him down if you want to give him just shoulder pads rather than those stalks. It's a little weird because Straxus never had this kind of silhouette in the comic, so I think I would actually prefer them down. Just give him the huge shoulder pads. Not that he was really known for that either in the comics. The detail in the neck, the collar piece, is exactly the same as Galvatron. The biggest change is really just his chest plate and these tread pieces here. In Galvatron, they were rolling treads, and here they're Cybertronian hover treads, let's just say. Functionally, the figure is exactly the same. He is missing the 5mm peg on the side of his arm that Galvatron has, but he does have one here. I guess you could do that if you really wanted to, but why would you want to? This is just kind of a very weird piece now. I guess it just goes on his backpack. That's fine. It's just a weird bit of kibble now. And his Energon X, his pickaxe rather, you would see does fold. That's now part of his actual transformation in order to make his alternate mode comic accurate. So let's take a look and transform the figure then. Alright, so here you have Straxus in his alt mode. It looks pretty good, quite honestly. I've got some minor quibbles with the back, just because I had problems with Galvatron, the back of Galvatron as well, because it just didn't seem to look very good. All told, I think this is a really good version of the figure. I mean, he's in his Sky Sled mode. He looks good in both modes. It's very obvious this is a Galvatron retool, but the fact that they were able to use Galvatron's mold to make Straxus is amazing. It's one of those things where, when you look back on it, it makes perfect sense. Why wouldn't you do Straxus with Galvatron's weird flying cannon mode? They actually share a lot of design elements in the beginning. I mean, robot mode, not so much, but definitely his alternate mode. I can safely say that as a child reading the Marvel Comics Smelting Pool and Bridge to Nowhere issues, that when I saw Straxus's flying cannon alt mode, I never would have thought we would actually see that in real life, in a way that really pays tribute to the character. Kudos to Hasbro and Takara for bringing us this fairly amazing toy. I mean, yeah, I've got problems with the back, and yeah, it really is just Galvatron. But, you know, sometimes a fresh slap of paint and some slight retooling is really all you need to transform one character to another. So I'm very impressed with the tooling here. I was fairly impressed with the Kingdom Legacy Galvatron mold in general. So this is a really nice figure. It's really nice. It's just like Galvatron. It's hefty in the hand. It's very articulated. I really like the fact that they added the flying flange piece that really didn't seem to serve any purpose to his flight mode in the comic, but I'm really happy that they decided to include it and also make his pickaxe into that particular accessory. So yeah, would I like something to fill out the back here? Maybe do something slightly different with this? Yeah, I mean, it's not perfect. It's the same thing. It's the same problem I had with Galvatron. It's just a lot of empty space there and this weird naff foot backpack thing. I mean, for Galvatron, it made sense because it was for the stability of his rolling artillery mode. For Straxus, it makes no sense whatsoever. And, you know, I really feel like it wouldn't have taken that much to have used different legs or retooled something. But, I mean, Straxus's legs really do look like they did in the comics. So I'm not going to make too fine a point of it. So would I suggest picking this up? Definitely. if you are a fan of the G1 Marvel line, if you're a fan of Straxus, if like me, you've been waiting for this figure since you were probably 6. If you already have the Galvatron mold, I don't really think it's necessary to get it, unless you're a completist. The retooling is nice, but for a very obscure character, I really don't think you'd be missing much. Much like the rest of the Hasbro Comic Edition Generations Legacy exclusives. None of them are particularly, I don't want to say worthwhile, because I think Straxus is really worthwhile, but I think that's also a personal thing. But if you look at what the Comic Edition figures have been, it's been Shockwave, which was just a recolor with Optimus Prime's head. Cool, but, I mean, that's really just kind of a double dip. King Grimlock, once again, also just kind of a double dip. I mean, yeah, it came with the crown, but it really, I don't think it was really worth being an exclusive. Especially a Hasbro exclusive. If it was like a Target exclusive or something, yeah, maybe I'd understand. But you're paying premium prices going on to Hasbro's website and buying it exclusive. It's just not worth it. Straxus, next. I think it's worth it, but that's a personal preference kind of thing. Emerald Zarin and Flame, once again, a personal preference. I would love the Emerald Zarin figure, but I also freely acknowledge that it is a reflector retool. And Flame is just a retool of War for Cybertron Gamer Edition Megatron, which is an excellent figure. I'm not taking anything away from the figure. It's an excellent figure. The engineering is excellent, and it's a great mold to use for that particular character. So, I mean, it's just like, is it really, for a diehard completist, yeah, pick it up. If you don't know who Straxus is, I don't think you need to spend the money on it. It's not really that cool of an exclusive. I mean, don't get me wrong, personally, I'm over the moon giddy that this has actually been released. I thought the Darkmount figure would be the only figure we would ever get of Straxus. So I'm very happy. But, I mean, to people who don't know who Straxus is, what's the point, really? I mean, looking at it another way, that's really what an exclusive is. It's something that, I think it's something that Hasbro has kind of been going backwards on. Because I feel like the definition of an exclusive is not that it is super scarce. I think the definition of an exclusive is does not appeal to everyone. And yeah, it's nice, but I mean, we're not talking about Golden Lagoon Lucky Draw figures here. I thought it was interesting back in Generations. Specific characters would only be specific, it would be a retailer exclusive. Ultra Magnus and Skywar, the Autobot City 2-pack, back in the original, way back in the Classics line. That was a Target exclusive. And, you know, I don't think that that was scarce, not like scarcity is known nowadays. But if you didn't care about Ultra Magnus and Skywarp, then you could just skip it and not feel bad about it. I feel like nowadays, their concept of exclusive means really rare, limited quantities. This is only going to be sold through HasLab, and no one is ever going to see it again. It's going to be limited. Once we sell out, and then they're driving up the secondary market prices, or kind of like any of the Titans from previous lines. They are bringing them back because they were scarce, not seen in stores. People weren't collecting them. And now all of a sudden they have a huge audience, a huge buying market ready to pay for Scorponok, for Fortress Maximus, for Omega Supreme. Unfortunately, I think Hasbro's new business model is not great in that respect. I mean, I have seen the Star Convoy. I saw this Star Convoy Titan class announcement, and it's like, I'm not going to buy that. I have bought just about every single Titan from every single line going all the way back to Combiner Wars. I have things from even before that, I mean, they weren't technically called Titan class, but I mean, I own a prodigious amount of very large big box figures, and I am not going to buy that Star Convoy. I mean, it's just not worth it. To me, I have no attachment to Star Convoy, and I don't like the movement of number of pieces meaning Titan. Like, yeah, Star Convoy comes with a lot of pieces. He comes with a lot of blast effects. He comes with a lot of playability, yes, but I mean, it's a Micromaster and a Micromaster trailer and a lot of blast effects. And it's just like, that's not a Titan. Omega Supreme, that's a Titan. Fortress Maximus, That's a Titan. The Ark, the Nemesis, Tidal Wave, all of those were Titans. I don't think that the new Star Convoy really should count, but I'm getting out in the weeds now. So yeah, Straxus, great figure. If you like Straxus, pick it up, but you're not really missing anything if you don't, just because he's essentially Galvatron. I'm glad I picked him up. I'm happy now I have a comic-accurate Straxus in my collection. As for what's next, I found an entire crate of nothing but sealed-in-box Transformers from the previous couple of lines. So probably start going through those. And if I pick up anything newer, I mean, I'll try to prioritize those first. Thank you for joining me down this trip down Transformers Lane. Sorry about the digression about Hasbro and their Titans and their exclusives. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy it, I hope that you will like and subscribe and comment on it. I always like to hear from my viewers, and I'd really like to know if anyone has, any opinions on these figures, one way or the other. What is your opinion on the newly announced Star Convoy? But this has been Fantom for The Shelves Have Eyes. Thank you very much for joining me on this journey. Have a good night, y'all.